Anything else?
Yes, under, I think, new business. New business item D, first reading of, we've got a typo there. It is policy BDDH.
Are we gonna take off 84A also?
Yeah. I talked to Emma before the meeting, and yeah, she said it would be more meaningful in January.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Thank you.
Okay, so with those changes, we would need an approve, a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, we already did 77. We had dinner with the legislators. We appreciate them being here tonight. That was kind of nice to be able to sit down and talk to them. We already did the tour. So we are down to,
Waiver authorizations.
okay, we just have on this, right? Okay. So waiver authorizations, do we have any? No, none? So 81, approve the minutes from November 12th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from November 12th. I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item is approve expenditures, number 82.
Make a motion to approve expenditures A through C.
Second. Okay, all in favor with that motion?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. 83, financial statements.
Make a motion to approve financial statements A through K. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 84, patrons and others. We have the Lead-Deadwood High School students and the Deadwood PD to talk about our wrap.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day and your meeting here tonight. My name is Corey Schaefer. I'm the Chief of Police for the Deadwood Police Department. And a couple of months ago, we set out on a venture to do something not only along with the new SRO, but also with our patrol division and our police department to try to better enhance our relationship with the youth. It was brought up that maybe we could have a contest of some sort with some students here at the high school level and a drawing contest with the conclusion of wrapping one of our patrol cars in a Lead-Deadwood school district kind of logo. I'll pass around a couple of the drawings there that came up from these students. And in addition to this, not only is the final product here, and that's for the reason why we're here, is we'd like to present it to you. It was done, completed, we got it back, and we have it out here for display. So we would like to present that to you guys. That's not without going to say that local business owners, Brad and then Rob, I think, the concessions. But Brad here with Deadwood Soda Saloon, I'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself. If you don't know him, he, along with Rob, both contributed some prizes for our winners, so to speak, or participants that we took. I think it was important not to take just one drawing. There was actually 3 that we liked, details of their drawings. So Carl, Hennessy, and Peyton are all here, Carl, to not only see the final product, but also be presented with an award, so to speak, for their accomplishments in the drawings. So I'll go ahead and let you speak, Brad.
Thank you. You guys all love who I am. When I was approached about this, I thought it was awesome. And I just want to hand these out. I'm really excited to see it. I'm super impressed. One thing that Kelly and I talk about all the time is how you youth in this program continue to impress us, not only in athletics, academics, but just overall other interests. And we're honored to give you something. We put together a package for each of you. It's got an unlimited, all you can drink for life mug for my root beers and our custom sodas. We also have our custom growler that $1 refill for life for all of the root beers that we make in-house. T-shirt, some stickers, and also a coupon because we just opened Deadwood Dogs in the back. So you can bring a friend and get a pre-loaded sweet gourmet hot dog with a custom soda. So I just want to say how impressed, and I continue to be impressed with our youth in this community, and it's well deserved for your recognition. And it's really cool what the police department has had, because this is going to be going around town, and I hope you guys are proud to be able to see that as it drives through the city for years to come. So we'll hand these out to you real quick. And thanks again so much for your contribution.
Thank you. Next up, in lieu of, oh, here's Rob. Rob, Lester, I'd like to give you an opportunity to present your gifts to the students who were participants in the drawing. Sure. Then was brought to my attention, Rob's shirt does not come with a battery pack.
I don't even, all I did was, we're just Gold Star concessions, and we wanna help out wherever we can, and whenever kids are involved, we like to be involved. So, yeah, we just, went them all certificates to the concession stand for $25 a piece, so, for doing all their work, to get the car all designed up and ready to go, so after that,
You want me to do it? Yeah, go ahead, Carl. Yeah, Carl, come on up.
Carl Williams, Tennessee Manson, and Peyton Percy.
Yeah.
Hey, can we get one picture for Brittany and
Rob, Rob, you want to come up?
Let's get everybody involved. One, two, three. Thank you.
Have the board step out and actually look at the car. You have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking your time, during your meeting to let us, be able to appreciate and recognize the efforts they've done. I know we had a conversation, Rob, his wife and I, prior to us meeting tonight. I think recognition is huge, rather than us just pulling up in a different patrol car and saying this is what we did. We'd like to say why and how. So, with that being said, on behalf of the Deadwood Police Department, this is Sergeant Detective Jim Olson, my Commissioner Charlie Struble, and Lieutenant Eric Jan. I thank you for your guys' time, and I especially appreciate you three for participating in their drawings. That being said, Dr. Pearson, if you want to go outside, we can.
Yeah, let's do that. I just want to say too, from us, thank you to Rob and to Brad for your support for our kids in this program. Thank you to Mr. Burgoyne for kind of spearheading them, and I don't think you had to crack the whip very hard to get them to buy into this project. So thank you, you kids, and thank you to the Deadwood PD. So there's the thank yous. It is much appreciated. So yeah, let's step out and take a look.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's gonna put it all together. It's nice. He said he would get one in the light, like sunsets and stuff. All right, so we are back at it. They're all in. Okay, we're done that. So old business, we have some policies that we kind of looked at last time. There was some changes that we needed. We have one thing that we need to still
Yeah.
for a little bit too. It was JFCH, right? Correct.
And we need to change the
Shall
shall to
may.
may.
Yep.
So let's,
Does anybody need to look at any of these again? And if not, we kind of went through them all pretty well in detail last time. So if someone, did you need an action on this? And if someone would be comfortable, we could.
Amber. I just
I did make a change to JHCDC, and I just want to make sure you guys saw that change.
Okay.
Just want to draw your attention to it before you.
Yep.
So, on D, in that policy, I did change, if diabetes care is to be provided by the UAP, the virtual nurse, it used to say must be available during school hours. It now says will be available during school hours. And then we added the line, if the school nurse / virtual nurse is not available for unseen reasons, the student's parents will be notified to coordinate care as outlined in the student's individualized healthcare plan.
I think that's good.
Thank you.
So I think then the question would be, if you are comfortable with making a policy or making a decision, we could say approving all of those with the changes to the shells to the May. And then we wouldn't have to have
Change it discussed.
you know, next time, if you're comfortable with that.
So I would make the motion to approve policies GCDB, JO, JOA, JHCDC, JECB, GCC, and JFCH with the shalls being changed to mays, as well as policies IGCB, GBG, and JGD.
That is the motion.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'm not gonna repeat all that.
Good job.
Good job. All right.
Mary,
I just-
help me remember tomorrow what's going on.
The shell to the May. Did you take care of that? Thank you. Okay, the next item is the student board representative discussion. We kind of had carried it over and we were gonna look at some different things and get back to us. So that's kind of where we're at.
So, that proposal got put in the packet, correct?
I don't know if it didn't, I made
No,
copies.
it is.
So
It did not.
there you go.
Okay.
Tonight, I think, is the first time we'll just look at it. We won't make a decision.
And I'm not really trying to pawn this off on Mark, really, but I assume it's gonna be, we're assuming it's gonna be a high school student, most likely. So Mark is gonna kind of speak to it. More so. Mark, you wanna hit the highlights of this, proposal?
Yeah, so, taking what our discussion was, just at the top, biggest thing is we want to provide a platform for students. To voices be heard, strengthen leadership, and connections between our student body and our overarching school leadership. This proposal just has, a single student representative on it. I think, through looking into more and more models, I think 2 would be a tough sell to start. I think that we need to get the program up and running if this is what we decide to do. This is the easiest way to do it. Let's put some basic expectations about their responsibilities there. The part that I think will need to be developed a little bit more will be the eligibility criteria. And I think that is going to kind of, I don't know if that's a board level thing that we want to discuss, or if that is something that we want to do with the administration team and bring it forward, but I think that there's some wiggle room there. I didn't put any concrete staples in there because I think we're going to have to make this work for us and what that looks like. Instead of just stealing some language from, some programs that are already out there, and we need to make it ours. So in the selection process, the things we talked about last time was, do we want to do this as far as elections, interviews, application process? So both of them, they're giving us the wiggle room to do either way that we want to move forward with that. The academic or the calendar year would be their term with potential for reappointment. And like we talked about, if we have going with 2 student representatives, the model that I think would work best would be that we elect a junior and a senior And then they would serve 2 terms. Obviously, once you get through that first year, the senior would only have 1, but it would be reoccurring. That way you could have that student that could be training the other student, kind of like president-elect type thing. So I think, again, like we discussed last time, our biggest hurdle is getting this put into fine details of what our goals are and what we want the student to get out of this. Because we can have students come all the time, they're just sitting there. They're gonna be bored. So we need to, if we're gonna make this work, like we talked about, I believe really strongly that they need to have an ongoing piece, some type of a report to you guys each month. And I think that could look very differently depending on what's going on. What I don't want to turn into is the minor complaint department and coming to you with things that should be handled at a lower level between the students and the administration, but something that's meaningful. And I think that's going to look very different every month. Some might be a little bit less than others, but finding the interest and I think making, I don't know how to put this, giving them some ownership of it. There's going to be pieces we know going through the school board meetings that the kids just are probably going to be over the top of their head. They're going to be bored with it. We know that going forward. So, and again, how do we make that valuable? And I think that's giving them a voice. One of the things we talked about was potentially having that student get a report from each building through their student councils, different things that are going on in their buildings, and coming back and getting a chance to present to you. I think the other piece that you guys talked about that I think would be important is what do we want them to learn from this experience? So we talked about understanding public government and things like that. But I also think in talking with Dr. Pearson, like we don't just want it to be just one student that's getting the benefit of that. So how that'll be a challenge ongoing is how they would get that back and benefit more than just one single individual student that's doing this. Because I think if we're only affecting one kid by this, I don't know how strong of a program that's going to be. So I think that's going to be a big hurdle for us, is making sure that that's ongoing and meaningful conversation that can then be put back into the larger student body. But like I said, this is just kind of an outline what I think it can be. Yeah, questions, thoughts?
I think this is a really good start. I appreciate you taking the time and, kind of going through it. I think we need to keep it simple because I don't think we need to have it real complex because I agree, kids are gonna get bored. I also, I like the idea of them having to give a report of like what's going on in the schools, because honestly, unless you have kids in the district, you don't really know all the different things that are in each building and what's going on. And I think it's good to hear that from the kids' perspective versus the adult perspective. That would be my goal with it. One of the things that I thought would be kind of interesting to try to get it back to, we'll say the overall group, would be either tying it into, they have to give a report, like if they're taking a government or social studies class or something that's kind of dealing with that, could they give a report, whatever they hear at us, could they go to that class and give a report to the class? Somehow tie it back into the curriculum, one of those classes might be a good way to kind of give back.
Yeah.
Or when you do your announcements, maybe like the week after the school board meeting or something, they could give kind of a address to the student body sort of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know when that would be, but I think that would be a good way to tie it back and make them responsible to say, okay, now you have to go back and you have to do, whether it's not really a speech, but, kind of an address.
Yeah. So the other thing we need to talk about, and I just put something in there, but is time frame of when and how this is going to go. So again, this is something new. This is something that we don't have extremely dialed in yet. But I think the first step is we have to get the information out there, what this is, gauge some interest, try to sell the kids on it. And if this is something that we want to move forward with, I think that we need to start doing that now. Because if we come back after Christmas, all of a sudden there's the month of January, then we're maybe going through the application process, and I could see it lingering on until February, March. So if we're going to do it this calendar year, I think we start selling it like tomorrow. barring that we have school.
I think I'm
I jump
comfortable
over.
with that. We can also see what happens. If we don't get any interest, it's not like we have to do it right now. We might need to work on it and do some work for next school year.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to, I mean, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
It might take a while.
I would like to also gauge, and I don't want to sound like I'm not in favor of it, but I know it's gonna be an ongoing responsibility every month. And it's gonna fall on the administration to do. And, I work for the board, whatever you guys tell me to do, I'll do. But I want to make sure that this is something the board wants, or is this something that one or two people want? And what is the ultimate goal of it? I guess I would like to steer the direction that way a little bit.
I think we need to hear if there's interest from the student body. Because like a few years ago, I could pinpoint a student that would be like, sign me up.
Mhm.
But I don't know if there's that student right now. Because if you get those students that are like really interested in government,
Mhm.
they would sign right up for it.
Well, I mean, I think we're gonna have a couple of those. I mean, we had a student that was a page last year and is
Yeah.
going back again this year to do it, and that was the first name that popped into my head.
And that's what I was,
But I think to Dr. Pearson's comment, I think one thing that for me that I'd like to see dialed in is again, where's our goal? Where is this going? Because again, we can put this together, but how are we going to gauge whether this is working towards our goal? Is it successful? Is it not? And how do we gauge that? So some of that's going to be loose. Again, we're building this as we go a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think we need to, the piece that I think that we need to discuss together is getting that goal. What is that specifically? So when we reference it, when you guys are talking to parents, when we're talking to kids, we're using the same direction. So I would be interested to see, I know we talked about it a little bit last time, but see what your thoughts are on
Well,
that.
I'm not gonna say much because this came from me. I mean, I'll say that. I asked for this based on going to some other school board meetings. I've seen some things. And I really liked how it really engaged the kids to participate instead of them feeling like, well, I'll do whatever
yeah,
the administrators say, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. I think, one, it taught them to be able to help teach other kids that this isn't just us sitting in here, making a bunch of decisions just because. And that was the goal. To me, that's the goal, is to help, because kids will listen to kids more than kids will listen to adults in this setting.
well, I think it makes the kids realize that we value their feedback. So that when they're in here and telling us their feedback, then we're listening to their feedback. And they're going back and telling other kids what we're talking about. It just makes it a more level playing field.
And vice versa, I think it
Yeah.
also teaches kids that just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's gonna go your way either.
Yes.
Like, you have to have a back and forth. And there has to be reasoning behind decisions. There's policies that you have to follow. There's rules you have to follow. But I think sometimes kids have a tendency, and teachers, I mean, I'll say it on both aspects. They have a tendency to think that when we're sitting in this room, we're just making decisions to make decisions. That we're not basing it on anything. And I think this would be a good tool for kids to understand when they walk outside these doors, all of the decisions that they have to deal with, there's someone helping them get there. So I guess that's my take, but if I'm the only one that wants to see this, I'm perfectly fine with us not doing it too. It was an idea of something different.
No, I like it too.
No, I think it's a good idea too, and I would like to see maybe it open up communication with the kids a little bit more, or to get feedback, and I don't know what that looks like on your guys' side, because that's what I'm trying to, like, in my head, if there is gonna be a student that sits in these meetings, and they can get feedback from like the elementary school student council, and somehow the elementary student council can talk to the elementary kids and like, hey, what's going good, and what do you guys like, or what's one thing we could ask for, and they're gonna want more recess and cookies and stuff like that, to kind of get their feedback a little bit.
Okay, more recess and cookies are not, I mean, you were not elected to the school board to govern over recess and cookies. Those are, and that's my fear with this, is that we're gonna spend a lot of time, I mean, this is a publicly elected governing board. I don't wanna see you get bogged down with recess and cookies.
Oh,
I mean, it feels good to get student input. We all feel good about that, but I think we need to remember your purpose also.
But I think that that's also an opportunity for these kids to learn, like, okay, you know, if these are the things that you want, it's no different than what we expect of our parents or our teachers as far as that chain of command. Okay, you want more recess and cookies? You don't start with the school board. You need to start at, you know, Mr. Van Diver's office.
But are we gonna do that? Or are we gonna entertain any, I mean, I'm honestly asking the question. Are we gonna entertain any, because it's coming from a kid, we're gonna entertain any topic they bring up and that. So I think we just need to think about it. And if we do this, that would be my caution to you, like keep the school board at board level things. Let the administration do their job, let the teachers do their job. And if we can do that, it might be a great thing.
And I think it's a good opportunity for them to learn that, though. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I don't just immediately go to the school board.
But this representative would be talking to the admin, right? When this.
I think they're gonna have to be vetted each month before they come in here, and it needs to be talked through, whether it's the admin at the student council or whatever else. And whoever would be in this position, they have to understand that we're not trying to manipulate what you're gonna take to the board, but there's gonna be some guidance on it.
Yeah, like they wouldn't be coming and saying, I'm gonna talk about milk and cookies, but they would be saying, this is what I wanna talk about this month.
Mhm.
And maybe it's something similar to what we do as administrators.
that's what I.
Sometimes
Yeah.
we give our reports. So maybe it's a report that they give
That's to me
every
exactly.
month about what's going on in the school.
It's not gonna bring the petition for open campus lunch.
Yeah, where would it be? I mean,
I think it would be underneath your administrator reports.
So when it says feedback and communication is what we're talking about. How would that, like, just take this agenda, for example, for tonight. What parts of this would we want a student giving
I think it'd be
feedback and communication on?
It'd be under administrative reports and it'd be like superintendent, middle school, high school, whatever, elementary.
But they're not giving, I mean, we aren't asking these guys to comment on all of the, like, the expenditures of it. We're not asking for that. At the very end, they would give us a report of what's going on in school right now, from a student perspective, not from an administration perspective. That's what I see it as.
And if they don't have anything, it would be listed.
Yeah, if they, because there might be some months that they're like, well, I don't really have.
I don't have
much
anything,
this
I'm
month.
gonna come, yeah.
Now, for me, where I'm really having a hard time wrapping my head around this is the idea of having just a student, I mean, I know it's not gonna be entirely random, but like having a student that chooses to do this. Where I feel like we already have certain students that are already in a position that would make sense and that would feed into this directly. Like, for instance, having your student body president and your junior class president, you know, to me, it would make sense for them to be the ones doing this because they're already active in their school. They already have taken on that leadership role and are expected to have, you know, certain, they have certain expectations already placed on them. Like, to me, it would make more sense to make this one of those expectations. But I
Just
feel
fine
like
with that. I think that would be just fine because they're already doing it. I just think we're really missing that aspect of, unless we have a child in this school district, we don't know what's going on from the student perspective. That's all it is. It doesn't have to be anything.
But there might be someone else
Crazy.
who wants to do this too. There might be someone else that really wants to do this job.
But I think that the problem you're gonna run into there is that if, like, say, like when I was in high school, I would have been all over this, but I wasn't on the student council. So am I really in the best position to be able to, you know, come to a school board meeting and talk about things when I'm not an active participant in the student administration at our school?
Yeah,
see both sides, yeah.
so can I. I mean, what qualifies any of you to be here? You are interested in investing in your school district, you care about it, it's meaningful to you. Therefore, that, and the voters voted you in, that qualifies you. So I think, in answer to your question, if you have a student like that and they're engaged and they're wanting, I think that qualifies.
But that's exactly why you have the process where they have to have a reason. They have to put it like, this is why I want to be involved. Right?
They're still going through the same process, and I see it a little different, because student council and stuff, yeah, they have a lot of things, but they may not be looking at it from a government standpoint, they're just looking at it from being involved in the fun activities. That's, to me, that's what I see student council as. It's more of a activity based, or the, you know, that, than it is maybe the interest of public office.
Yeah,
There's
I
a big
think like the
difference there.
page, that guy's would look.
Like that'd be-
The print is the page, that
Yep.
person would totally be like,
I would think so, yeah.
yeah.
So next steps.
I think we have to,
I was gonna-
I think we have it.
Yeah, I was just gonna add it, just because we have a similar model to what you guys are talking about. We have our leaders, we have our student body leaders, vice president, president, all that. We have dorm leaders, we have recreation leaders that had all these areas, presidents of all these different areas. And then we have an SGA, Student Government Association. That SGA president is there to represent the interest of the students, come to all of our admin meetings, and is there to talk about student issues, and then drive forward proposals, stuff that would be at that level for those students. So for us, the way we structure it, there's one that says what you guys are talking about, and they take the feedback from all those different organizations, channel it upwards. So works very well.
I think
I think you have to see the interest.
I agree. I think the only thing, because I really, I mean, even if our student council, the way it is right now, is more activities based, I do think that there needs to be some level of communication there. So I mean, I'm looking at the wrong piece of paper here. Okay. Quick skimming this with the responsibilities, like I would maybe add that, you know, if they're not already a member of student council, that they be a liaison, you know, and at least present at student council meetings, just so they're getting all of it. I really like that. Student council involvement in some aspect.
Well, should we start with student council, see if we have any interest there?
I think you need to gauge the interest, because if we don't get any interest, or their kids say, we don't want to do this, I think us having this discussion probably isn't gonna matter, right? I mean, if you don't really see these, so let's just gauge it, and I think it's okay. I am not expecting this to be ready to go by January. We might need to just kind of see if it's worth it and maybe start it next school year, which would give us a lot more time, so we're not sitting here trying to get it in the next 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Because I don't think that needs to happen. I think let's see what the interest
Yeah,
is.
next school year would be great for you.
So
I think starting next school year.
So are you thinking, you know, Mark tomorrow gauges interest with students, see if anyone even cares or not?
I'm thinking a nice avenue would be to go like, I got to see when their next meeting is, but the student council meeting.
Yeah,
Or maybe we just hold another one before we leave for Christmas break if they don't have one scheduled and start there. And then see what we get as far as feedback. And then after that, we'll see. And then if we can have more discussion, we can kind of keep you guys in the loop. And if we need to open it up and start talking to the whole student body, we can do that. But I like the idea of starting with student council first and see if there's anybody on there that might be interested.
and it could also be that, you know, if you don't want to go quite this far yet, honestly, I wouldn't mind just hearing from student, I mean, we don't hear anything. Once a year, the student council comes to our meetings? But we have 3 student council, 1 in every school, and we never really hear from them except for that one time when we get our little chocolates.
Well, I think,
We usually get chocolates.
and then this may or may not be a part of this conversation going forward, but if that's something you want to hear, is you want to have a student report, we could do that from each of the 3 student councils.
Yeah, you could kind
I
of
mean,
tie what
we
they
could-
Maybe that's what it is.
We could implement that pretty easily this spring.
Cause I like the idea of at least maybe trying to get it, just kind of feel it out, see if we can get some interest, see if we can get some kids that want to come and watch a meeting this year, and then if we decide, or if the kids are like, yeah, that doesn't sound too bad, maybe go full into it next year, but we've got 5 months of the school year starting in January to kind of build it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I think you could take what you did here as kind of a model for the student council to say, hey, would you be interested in, you know, doing a report and this and that to kind of help bridge that gap for now? And then there might be more interest, February, March, April.
There you go. Those are the 3 months I was gonna
That's
say.
all we got left.
All right.
That
Thank you.
help you?
Absolutely.
Give you some idea?
Yep.
everybody okay with that? Yep. Okay. So we are on 86, contract resignation list with the addition of.
Yeah, and I don't know, the deal with Clem is just that, he's,
You can do that, but you
yeah.
it's not official. Okay,
He didn't have, yeah, he didn't,
it's not official.
he's just not available.
Yeah.
On a daily basis then. Okay,
You need to read them.
that's the only resignation we have, all right? Okay, so I'll read the contract list. Certified subs, Randall Hanson. At $135 a day, at $115 a day, Shelby Kruger Wooler. Classified subs, Randall Hanson and Shelby Kruger Wooler, excuse me. And then classified work agreement for elementary paraprofessional is also Shelby. So I'm guessing since Shelby is starting full-time, even though we're approving her under the classified subs, she probably won't be subbing because,
She'll be better.
she'll be a para, but yeah.
But she has subs, so we need it in the board minutes. We know what to pay her.
Yeah.
No.
No, okay, so we would need a motion to accept the contract resignation list.
Make a motion to approve the contract and resignation list.
Second. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Next item is the change order for the fax room project.
Okay, did you all get that in the board packet? It was an additional cost of $3,265.32. And there was just, in the original bid, there was some wire that was not, for whatever reason, was not in the bid from the breaker box to that room. Excuse me, they didn't charge us for labor, they just charged us for the material on that. But that's the one area where the cost went up.
The motion, or another for that one. Need a motion to approve the change order for the fax room project.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. So we are on to the appointing of all board members or board members to the ASBSD land network. If you want me to talk about it?
Yeah.
You kind of already know. Obviously I sit on the ASBSD board and at our last meeting, 2 weeks ago, we were down in Pier. 3 weeks ago? I don't remember what it was. It was 2 weeks ago. They had highly suggested that in light of, us having legislators here today and all the stuff going on within the legislative, that all of our board members would be appointed to the ASBSD land network because we may need some additional help with some things on there with legislation. Normally, we've always done one in the past, but they had suggested that we just have everybody instead this time. And I think that's a fair thing to ask so that we can all have that same involvement. I think that's all we just need to appoint. If everybody's okay with that, we would appoint all 5 of us to the land network board.
Before you have that
Yes.
motion, did you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, I didn't know, so we don't have it, as a sample for tonight on the agenda, but we might look at it for January. They did send out, and if anybody's looked at their ASBSD stuff, there was a sample resolution, school board consideration for an opposition to the school voucher proposal as it is, as obviously it's going forward right now. We would like to do that, but we did not have it on the agenda specifically tonight. But we wanted you to kind of take a look at that, between now and the next meeting. We'll put it on the next agenda if you're comfortable with that. Yes, well, I think a couple days ago, they probably sent it out.
They sent it out a couple times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're really looking to at least, the more people you can have, and not that we're saying we're against everything with that, but there are some pieces of it for sure that don't make sense. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of changes to it. That's just the way it works, but they're looking for some overall guidance from everybody on that. So I think that would be the question. Are these enough copies for?
Yeah, we've got plenty of copies.
Okay.
Anyway, this is the resolution that,
ASBSD sent out a sample resolution just in case.
so a comment I would make on this, and this is where, when Amber and I talked about it, I was a little reluctant, or we were a little reluctant to throw it on the agenda here sort of last minute because it's taking a position on a piece of legislation. And I guess my feeling, I'll give you my opinion, but I think that the school board is making a resolution that needs to be the board's decision, not me pushing it on you. It needs to be something that you think is the right thing to do. And that can be kind of controversial, but comment I would make on this, I think that this voucher business, and it's the conversation is gonna keep coming up, but I think, just like Scott said tonight, he said, well, this is a start. And so they're not talking about $4 million. They're talking about $40 million. If they, once they get it going, then then the question becomes every year, not whether or not we should have vouchers in this state. The question becomes at what level are we gonna fund the vouchers? And I think that would be naive of us to believe people when they say it's not gonna take any funding away from public schools. It absolutely will. And, I'm serious about, and I've talked to some other superintendents, I think we need to quantify some of this data to show, I think we've got significant numbers of these people that say they're homeschooling and what they are doing is an abomination. Like some of these parents honestly should probably go to jail because what it is child neglect. And, I think some of those people could be eligible to receive those vouchers. And, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about, like I said in the first part of the meeting, we're not talking about the people that belong to the Homeschool Coalition who are doing Bible study at 9, algebra at 10, et cetera. That's not the people we're talking about. And I'm not saying that the majority of homeschool people are the no schoolers, but I think the number is significant. And I think if and it's already been, when we took away the accountability, we've got a significant number. Now, if we say, oh, we're going to give $3,000 or $4,000 per student if you homeschool, I really think, and it maybe will take away some of our social issues we're dealing with in school, because those kids won't be here. But the funding is going to go with them. And
I think that from our perspective, which we didn't really get into with the legislators, but the voucher itself isn't the issue. It's the rules behind the voucher, but they don't want to put the rules in place yet. They just want the voucher to get approved. So it's the questions on how are they going to regulate it? What are they going to do? How much money are they going to get? That's what scares me. It's not the voucher itself. Is if you're a good homeschool person and you're doing what you need to do, you're not going to take advantage of it. Your kid's still getting educated.
Right.
I don't have an issue with homeschool if they're doing it properly, but we don't have any regulation to go with it. And that's what scares me.
Yeah, I think that if we can put together numbers to quantify this, if we can put together a list, if they want to know like what our accountability is, well, our accountability is the parents and the kids that are graduating and going on to college and like getting successful people out of our school. So how do we put that into paper to be able to show them, like everybody here that works in the school is passionate about what they do and the public and the kids that go to school here, and that's why they work here. And so how do we put that into paper to like justify that? You know what I mean?
yeah, I do. And if I don't know if that's a rhetorical question or if it is a question.
Well, I think if everybody could say, well, these are the things that we can quantify. How many kids are homeschooled that are in the system, that are in trouble, like put a number to that, put together how we are accountable, besides test scores, put together, all the numbers that we.
Like what you were.
So here's my idea, is that Mary would create a spreadsheet and, honestly, it's gonna take 2 or 3 hours for her to compile the data. Hey.
Yeah.
You're the campus lady. I'm not the campus magician. All right, that's you. So, but for her to get like 5 years worth of data, going back 5 years or whatever it's about 5 years, whenever the legislation changed in South Dakota. I think we're gonna study from that point forward. But 4 data points is what I propose. And if somebody has more, a 5th data point that would be telling, then I think so I think the things we'd look at would be, number of discipline referrals. And maybe you have 2 tiers there, like suspensions and discipline referrals, okay? Another data point could be, have these kids gone back and forth between homeschool and public education? Because we get a lot of that. They get up against the attendance policy, well, we're gonna homeschool. And then they realize, what?
They hit like their quota or whatever.
Yep, and they're like, we're gonna homeschool. And then a few months later, we've got several of these, they bring the kids come back to school because mom can't deal with them at home or whatever. And then next time they get mad because the kid started the toilet paper dispenser on fire. Well, then we're gonna homeschool. Okay. So back and forth. That's another data point. Chronic absenteeism. The third data point, and then failing grades. Okay. So how do these kids do academically? And I realize somebody could make the argument, well, because you as a public school are failing them so badly, that's why they had to get out of there. Okay, fine. But I think we can paint a picture that kids that hit one or more of these data points, that's the picture we're painting of these kids are gonna be a problem in society. And I think those are data points we can get fairly easily. So we'd have a spreadsheet, and rather than calling them Mark Jacobs, check these boxes, it's student number 1, student number 2. And I think we could fairly easily quantify.
But I think the question is one, look through this, make sure you're comfortable with this. We would plan on having some form of this school voucher opposition thing on the January agenda. And then 2, I think the data points are something that we need to have if we are gonna, if we're gonna do this, I wanna be able, if a legislator calls me and says, well, I wanna hear what you say. I wanna have the data to be able to say, well, this is what we looked at.
And
I think
maybe,
that's fair.
can we incorporate job corps data?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's anything that's helpful, yeah, our sample size is small.
Yeah.
Through the enrollment size, your data points are gonna be significantly larger, but if there's anything that we can provide, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's you and I talk about the data points, how that might coincide with our data.
I did, I can think we can look at, how long they spend out of school, where are they at academically when they surface, because they tend to be pretty low.
Yeah.
So there's some data there to talk about.
Yeah, and like I told Scott, if the numbers come back and it's like 2.5% of the kids hit these data points, then I'll shut up. Then it's like, okay, I proved them wrong. I don't think I'll have to shut up.
Okay. I think that was the only question. We just didn't feel it was, even though they asked us to do it, we just didn't have it on this agenda, but we'll do it for the January one. Okay. So the next item is first reading on policy DDD.
Okay, Jamie, would you be able to get in assembly and show that? Sorry, I don't want to bog things down here, folks, but I read through that. I made the changes we talked about, but there were a couple other words that I caught that I just didn't feel like I should make the change without making it public. So does that have our edits on it, or is that just our adopted policy?
It is BDDH, right?
Yeah, BDDH.
That's the adopted policy.
Am I in the wrong spot?
Well, I think we have to go into the regular assembly. Go to login.
I don't have a login.
Oh. Okay, can I put my computer on the screen?
So why is that not working? Because you should be able to see those. There used to be a link on there.
There used to be one on the side,
Yeah,
wasn't
there
there?
used to be a link that showed the like working on policies. I don't know if they're bad, but it was on there.
No, I think I don't totally understand the technology, but this is linked now to our school website as our policy manual. So I think it's different than like when I go into Assembly. If that makes sense.
That was the same link I always went on.
Yeah, we used to be able to,
But I never, oh, well, okay, I don't.
yeah,
If it's a draft or a first draft,
it usually.
it's going to come up. It's going to come up. If it's an adopted policy, it no longer comes up.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been edited.
What wouldn't have been.
Right, that BDDH wouldn't have been an edited policy. You wouldn't have made it first draft again, or a draft. Like, see, like those policies that are on the side there. Those policies and policies that have not been adopted, those are the ones that we worked on changes.
Okay,
So,
we'll watch one magic line here.
okay.
So. I don't understand it, but. And this might not be hugely significant, but I just want to be, transparent.
Because it's just in draft, I think you have to have it as a first draft for us to be able to see it online.
Okay, so.
That's what it is.
So right here, we got the strike through of the time designated for public
Yeah.
forum on the agenda shall be immediately before the adoption of the, okay. Agenda and non-agenda items. C, speaker shall be granted, we talked about 2 minutes to present, and then I wanted to run this language by you without unilaterally just doing it. Upon receiving a request for an extension of time from the speaker, it says the school board, upon a motion being made and passed by a majority of the school board members present and voting, I changed that to the school board president may grant an additional amount of time not to exceed, that should probably be 2 minutes. Again. And then additional extensions may be granted only upon a 2/3 vote of school board members. So.
I think that's fair, that's pretty consistent with what you see at city councils and all of that, but that whoever the chairman is can have the ability to say,
Because it's
you can
really,
go ahead and keep talking for.
Right.
whatever, and they have the ability to cut them off too if they need to.
I agree, I just didn't want
That's
to,
fair.
I didn't want to split that language in there.
Yeah.
Without
Right.
people being aware. What's that? Huh?
the other one said we had to vote.
Right.
The old one said, yeah, we had talked about changing that before.
I thought that there was something in, Robert's Rules of Order that you have to have a 2/3 vote to let somebody extend their time. So we looked it up first and we knew.
Okay,
But I don't know.
that is a good question, pertinent question. Our policy says that we use Robert's Rules of Order as a guide, but it's not strictly adhered to. So,
The different, like city council and county commission, every January they adopt the rules of order is how their meetings are gonna be ran. That's different than how we do it.
so it's a logical question, but that's the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there, I just wanted to point that out to you. You guys can go ahead and approve if you want. Right?
This would just be a first reading. This would be a first reading tonight.
Yes.
So does it say in there where it's gonna be out on the agenda?
No, it doesn't. Like what we had talked about previously was to not specify on the
Because we moved it.
policy. Then that gives us the freedom to, under special circumstances, if you want to hear the public before you take a vote on something, you can bump it up to the top.
Yeah, because sometimes, we always usually have it at the end of the meeting,
Yeah.
but sometimes in certain scenarios, we've said, we're gonna go ahead and move public forum to the beginning, because maybe we have a room full of people and we know they're only here for one thing. We want the ability to move it around if we need to. But if not, I'd say in general, it's always at the end of the meeting.
So like how, like if there was someone in the audience that was gonna maybe speak on something that's further, but they would speak after, how do we know? Move that to the beginning that have that or something.
Just know.
I
Well,
guarantee you're gonna know if someone's in the audience.
If you have If you have a whole lunchroom full of people,
Yeah.
we know.
and you bring up a good point. If somebody has something pressing, we do have a mechanism for them to get on the agenda to speak about a specific item.
Right, but what I was thinking is if they're at the end, we've already made action on what they're here to speak about, then they're probably not gonna speak or they have already.
No, if it's an agenda item, they can raise their hand or anything. I mean, we can do that.
You can, but also people have a mechanism, say, Robin, if you wanted to, you see that we're gonna adopt these policies and you want to speak to that, you can contact me or contact the board president and say, hey, I'd like to be on the agenda for this item. People have the right to do that. Then we put them on the agenda ahead of that item. And then, so there is a mechanism for it.
Keep in mind, these are not, so you have to keep in mind, council and county commission hold public hearings. We don't hold public hearings. So you have to really, that's just the way the government works. It's different. So if they want to talk about something, they have to contact the superintendent to get on the agenda specifically. The public forum, they can come, anybody can come and be here and voice their one thing, but we're not holding public hearings on a lot of these.
Yeah, we hold a public budget hearing.
Yeah, we have a public budget hearing. Other than that, so we have to keep in mind that is the way that this type of government works. It's not like it is when we deal with city and county. We don't have public hearing regulations.
And for the public too, we've adopted the policy of doing 2 readings on policy
Yeah,
changes
policy changes.
for that reason. And yeah.
So that's like tonight's a first reading. We'll have a second reading. If they wanted to say something about the first reading, they could during the public forum. It's just different. It's hard to, it takes me a while to figure that out, but it's a whole public hearings.
But when we have major things, then, yeah.
Well, when we have major things, usually we're holding a first and second reading. If it's a policy revision or it's a new rule that we want to put into place, we are holding public hearings. That's different. So with that. 7, we have no correspondence. That's an easy one. 88, admin reports.
Okay, as always, I'll be brief. First,
I didn't say a word.
all right, so, first thing is, we're gonna be holding, our first meeting of the calendar committee, in January when we come back. And, I feel really good about the calendar that we've got this year. And, we took a lot of input from the committee and from staff members kind of at large. I guess I would remind or kind of reiterate, especially for our 3 new board members, because it's your first time on the board. School calendars, are not a bargainable item. And so like the teachers can't negotiate to have, certain days off or whatever. School calendar is, by statute, it's set by the board. So the administration brings calendar to the board approves it. Now, it's always good practice to seek a lot of input on that. And so the way we kind of run this, in this district is we have a calendar committee, and it's those committee members' jobs to, from the initial discussion that we have, it's their job to go out and talk to their people in their buildings or in their departments, if they're a classified person, whatever, seek some input, bring that back to the committee. And so the committee kind of hashes some things out. And then as an admin team, we take the input of the committee and we figure out, okay, what's going to work for us to run the school. Okay. And then I like to publicly present, I think even at one time it was in state law that school districts had to present draft calendar in February. So we always adhere to that. And then I like to let it sit for a month, don't do anything with it in March. And then in April, we approve the calendar. So that, in theory, gives a lot of people time for input, gives a lot of people time to mull it over. And I think like calendar we had this year, this is the first time since I've been around, I think first time in a long time, that we've concluded the semester before Christmas break. Also, I got a lot of positive comments, or we got a lot of positive comments about the start of the school year. So I think this has been maybe the most staff-friendly, maybe even family-friendly calendar we've had in a long time. So I don't anticipate a lot of changes.
Right, too.
Yeah, and a lot of that is a function of Christmas falling on Wednesday or whatever.
And a long break afternoon. Everyone's coming.
And it won't always be like that, but yeah. And I think it's important too, because some of the new board members, we didn't have a very strong calendar committee where they were really asking a lot of people. I think that's been fairly new the last couple of years where
I think that.
it seems like there's a lot more input from like staff and what they think or how it's working or what's not working or whatever. I think it's gone really well and this has been a.
Well, and you kind of got pushback from their PD days. They didn't have as many PD days originally. They were kind of upset about that, but they seem happy now.
This year we did?
Yeah.
I guess
Originally, they didn't have many PD days, but now they seem happy.
Yeah, we didn't have as many 2-hour early outs.
Yeah,
Early out,
yeah.
But
Early out.
So,
There's one thing that, remind me to talk to you about for the calendar for next year that I'd like to voice. Not concerns, but something that I think would be a positive change.
okay,
Do you want me to mention it now?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that it would be nice if there's even a possible way to, combine your Easter break with your spring break. Or do something to where your spring break isn't like, what is it, a Thursday, Friday, and then it's an early out on Wednesday, but the teachers are here until like 7 o'clock at night on what's technically the start of spring break. Because of conferences.
It's the conference.
So
we dealt with it.
I think that, spring break is kind of a joke. It's like this weird long weekend. I would like to see it be an actual break. And I would also like to see it not negatively impact our teachers because they're here until 7 o'clock at night,
Well,
the night before it starts.
part of that, just so you know a little more of that background, I'm open to that, but part of that is we've got to have, when we have conferences, we have to stay late.
Right.
And so obviously you're not gonna have conferences like on a Friday night. They don't like coming in the next day. So you gotta kind of pair it up with something, and that's why it's always right before spring break.
Well, and if it works out to where, they can get an actual spring break that's more than 2 days off, I think it would be an easier, more palatable thing. And I don't know if you have a way of, maybe you do combine that with your Easter break. My niece, goes to school in Minnesota, and I understand Minnesota versus South Dakota, but, she gets out of school on, she doesn't go to school on Good Friday. She has Easter Monday off, and then she has that entire following week is her spring break. Now, I'm not asking them to get 4 days for.
But does she start school in August, like August 11th?
No, she starts school in September, but they go through mid-June. So I understand that in order for us to get our.
Can't do that.
We're not going to be able.
Well, I tell you what, we can take that to the calendar committee and kind of see, because we've talked about combining it with Easter break before, and we've talked about, the deal with parent-teacher conferences, and this is kind of what we always land on.
Well, I think the other part of it too is that especially with having a more restrictive, policy as far as truancy is concerned, if you want people to take their kids out of school less, we'll give them more days together, that if they want to take that vacation, they can.
Okay.
So that's all I have. Sorry.
I would agree with it. I'd love to see our Easter and spring break together and longer. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be good morale for everything, that end of the year kind of thing. The other thing, kind of calendar committee-ish, because it kind of goes along with the question on the, how we always have to do conferences. I'm sorry, but there is a lot of school districts that don't do in-person conferences anymore. And I am.
I'm just laughing because I've done that before. And like we did away with parent-teacher conferences, when I was in Burke. And there was a group of moms that were livid. And they almost hung me on Main Street. Because I kind of said, you know what? They're poorly attended.
Yep.
We're, you know, kind of just like you're saying, and the teachers don't love it. Well, this group of moms, you know, and it came back and it was like, well, geez, I'm sorry, we tried it, and I'd be open to that, if the board wants to do
I think
that.
we should look at it. I still think there needs to be accountability to the teachers to be able to host something. Like if, you know, if you have parents that want to talk to them, whether it's an online option or it's an in-person, but I think our teachers could schedule that. Like, okay, this week is gonna be when we do this, whatever it is, but let the teachers have some say in how they do that. Cause there's like, I would be plumb happy going back to how we did it with COVID, which was the Zoom call, and it was quick and easy in 15 minutes and it was, I don't know, I think we should look at it. It's kind of relates to when you're having this calendar discussion, maybe bring that up and see what teachers think. Cause I would be, I was, honestly, I was up here, I did come to the middle school ones. There wasn't that many people around. I mean, there was some, depending on the kid.
Parent involvement is what we were just talking about, like we want parent involvement. You go remote, you think it's not attended well now. People aren't going to attend at all.
I would disagree. I think you'll actually have more.
Because that's an option usually. I mean,
Not all teachers, there's a lot of teachers.
Can we mark it in the minutes that during the 20-minute superintendent report? 80 seconds.
We'll allow it.
I think maybe it does need to be something with maybe they need to look at other options of Zoom calls or other options to have that parent involvement. Because maybe it would give parent involvement instead of that parent who doesn't come to the conference anyway.
See, and I see it being that much further removed to where you already have those parents that aren't involved. You're not gonna get any more involved by not having them be in the building. I also, don't disagree with the option of a hybrid, like a hybrid option.
Have a hybrid option.
I know a lot of the elementary school teachers do that. I would tell you that the elementary school conferences are very well attended, but I don't have a
93%.
school records.
I think we just have elementary.
93%.
Mixed with CTE nights. I think we need to do
I thought
both,
that-
because that was amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's what you do.
Okay, so we're gonna come back
Have
to,
more parent involvement.
yeah, we're gonna come back. I think it's some good ideas though, as you're talking about these topics, maybe look at some different options.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a different option than having a conference.
Like a hybrid, or like whatever maybe teachers think they could do to increase, but I will say this year for our first conference was the first time for high school, I stood in line quite a bit waiting to talk to my kids as teachers, which is the first time for a while that that's happened, but it was kind of later in the day and.
Just, I think it'd be good to maybe just talk to the teachers and find out, is there some different ideas?
Let's see, I never make it to any teacher
Okay.
meetings when I was there.
Okay.
They were just talking.
Do you want me to give any more
Yes.
reports?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because they were so bored
so
and just.
Go. Sorry.
So we had a meeting last week with the architects on the middle school construction project, and Jay, if I'm stealing your thunder, I'm sorry. Were you gonna talk about this?
Very briefly, so go for it.
Okay, Jay can maybe give more details in his report, but our next step is going to be setting up some user group meetings. What that means is people that use the office the most, for instance, will meet with the architects and give some input. The CTE teachers are going to talk about the CTE area with the architects, and that's just kind of a quick and dirty of what those user group meetings are gonna be like. And then after that, we're gonna get into some design work, and Jay might have more details on that. That's the superintendent report.
We're gonna move right on to you, Jay.
All right, sit back and relax. It's gonna take a bit. So, I'm just kidding.
I'm timing you. You have 2 minutes.
So, part of the report is, special ed, department, kind of information. This time of year, for new board members, every year we have to report, to the Department of Ed, a lot of data on our students with disabilities. And so on December 1st is the cutoff date. And so I collect all, data from all the students that we have in our school district and then submit it. So it has to be accurate. So I go back and forth with the teachers a few times to make sure that's accurate. So we're in the process of doing that right now. If we were a state that, or a district that received state aid, which we're not, different disability categories, get predetermined amount of money based upon that disability severity. We don't get that money, but we're still held to that standard because we receive federal funds. So that information has to be all collected and submitted by January 13th. So working on that right now. And then the final certification, Dr. Pearson and I look at, and then he signs off on by February 28th. So that's kind of that in a nutshell, a little history about our child count. And I just thought this was super interesting. I just went back 1 year to 2012. That's about when I started here. Our child count, our number of students with disabilities in the school district was 104 students. I jumped clear up to 2021 because there wasn't much change there. 2021, we dropped to 98 students in the school district. In 2022, we jumped up to 106. Last year, we jumped up to 117. And this year, it's projected we are going to jump up to 120. You tell me why that is. I don't know either. There's a lot of different reasons I would imagine, but I'm not smart enough to figure it all out either. I'm sure COVID has a little bit to do with it. But what's interesting is, and this is really a similar trend throughout our state and our region here, is that school districts' general population attended or overall attendance is, or not attendance, but number of students is going down, but these our special ed populations are going up. So just let you know, it's not an anomaly in our school district. It's kind of a trend right now. So take that for what you want.
Do you have that broken down by building?
I can get that by building, but I don't right here.
I'd just be curious to see.
Of course, the elementary generally has more, just because their population is higher, and that's where we identify those students generally.
I'd be curious how many, if that population increase is significant in the elementary, given that those children are now, 2, 3, 4 years post-COVID. And with birth to 3 and things like that, if that didn't have an impact on it, the number of kids on IEPs, things like that.
Yeah. I think it's pretty spread out almost, by percentage wise, pretty evenly by the numbers of kids that are in those school buildings, but a little bit, it's always been more in the elementary. We have a lot more speech kids in the elementary. That takes up a number of students, which kind of skews that number a little.
Well, and that's exactly where I was thinking is, because of the social side of it with COVID.
Yeah. Middle school wise, just a little report on our school counselor. You lose somebody really good. Sarah DeBeaumont, if you knew her, really fantastic school counselor, left us last year. But we're really very lucky to get Yolanda. She's doing a great job. Just let you know that she's really good at what she does. She's going to implement a program this second semester called Hope Squad. And it's kind of not something that she made up, but it's a program, but she's going to implement it at our school. It's a peer-to-peer suicide prevention programming, which empowers our students to recognize warning signs and connect their peers to a trusted adult. So it's empowering our kids to help others. So she's looking at getting some kids in that to be part of that program as we speak. The CTE staff position, it was approved last year, and again, we did not find that person for this school year. That's why Dr. Pearson's teaching, and some other people that are teaching some classes for some middle school, for our middle school. And so we're going to post that right after the beginning of the school year. Dr. Pearson touched on that middle school remodel a little bit, and those meetings are December 18th next week, those user group meetings. Just quick, if you weren't able to go to the choir concert last night, it was excellent. It was fantastic. Really a nice job by Dr. Olson. So we're really, really excited about that. And then the band concert is next Monday night, 16th. Any questions?
Yeah, I would just add, when you make Dean Peterson cry for 45 minutes straight, it probably went pretty good last night. So, yeah, it was really
We
good.
heard wonderful things.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to go, but I heard, well, actually, a lot, like I was telling Mr. Jacobs earlier, that even the elementary school, the CTE night, the way all of that. concert
Everything has been
went, I heard
such positive.
really, really good from just the general public that said, well, we just wanted something to do tonight, so we came up and watched the kids, and they don't even have students here. They just came because they wanted to see, and it was pretty cool to hear them say this was really amazing to see. So that's very cool.
Now think about that, like, kind of got some good momentum going, like, I think Dan had over 400 people at his, parent night, the CTE night, or STEM night.
STEM night, yeah.
At the elementary, like that's really awesome. We're able to put community into our buildings, and they're having a positive experience. That's- That really reflects well on our people. They're really doing a nice job.
And I want to give you a shout out to Yolanda, because I know I saw the news up and she talked to me about it. Also, the Greek programming that she's starting to, that went out, and that's pretty cool to see. So I appreciate that. Okay, so next one is high school principal.
So I'm gonna keep it short here, but got some good things going on. Jay already talked about a couple of them, but we've had some kids from different groups that have gone down today, and a few more that'll go tomorrow that have been helping out at Santa Shop. Some are getting volunteer hours in for part of the program. Some are just helping out. Heard some neat stories about that today, so I'm glad that went well. Tomorrow, barring weather, our NHS organization every year sponsors a Child of Need, and they are going over Spearfish to do some shopping to make some little boy or girl's Christmas hopefully a little bit more special. So we're excited about that. And touch base about the open house, the CT open house night. You know, didn't really know what to expect. Trying something new, and I think it was a hit. You know, it probably was a benefit that we had the elementary concert up here on the same night, but we had a chili contest. And there wasn't even one bite of chili left by the time it was gone. We went through tons of hot chocolate. We had sugar cookie decorations. We had a little table set up from each one of our departments with some kids' work. The marketing department, kids actually had to come up with a business model and a plan, and they were able to sell some of their goods underneath the school store. I don't have an exact number on what we made for profit, but we had over $1,200 in sales that night. We also had just shy of $500 that got donated to our Skills USA program.
Yep.
So very successful night for a first trial run, and we already were talking about what we want to do in the spring. We're doing this again, how we can make some changes to that. One of the ideas that I would like to see, we had some of our CT teachers that were missing that day. They were in San Antonio at some, like San Antonio, professional development opportunity. But I want to utilize that fax room in the spring. I think I want to see the kids cooking. I want to see them making whatever we're going to provide for a meal that night. I haven't told him this yet, but I was going to call Derek and maybe see if maybe he might be interested in participating in that CT night, because I think it went really well, and you got to see some different aspects that a lot of people don't get to see on a regular basis unless their kids actually in that program. Even then, they don't get to see it. So I thought it went really well. Let's see. We got the results back from our National Career Readiness exam that our seniors take every year. This is part of what goes into our report card each year about our students being college ready. Just a side note, it's my understanding that the state is not paying for this program moving forward. So I don't know what that's going to look like and how they're going to use that in the matrix for our student report or our school report card. But so the way it's broken down is you can score platinum, which is the top, or down to bronze, or you have an incomplete or no certificate. We had 50 kids that took it, and we had all but 5 that earned some type of a certificate, which judging by numbers in the past, we're getting better and better effort out of it. It's one thing we've tried to coach our kids up and, of how this can benefit them in multiple different ways when they're applying to colleges. It's something they can put on their resume. There's a lot of cool opportunities with it. So we did get 6 platinums and 12 golds. So I thought that was pretty good. Again, we'd like to see those numbers go up, but that was neat to see. Our PBS team has been doing a lot of stuff. We had a celebration here last Friday, something we did last year, right before the holidays, just giving back to the kids and all their hard work. And our attendance was awesome. We had a handful of kids that always get checked out when we do something different, but overall, I thought our attendance was really good. The classrooms are full, our different activities are full, from making gingerbread houses to board games, and just a lot of good communication, a lot of interaction going with the kids that they maybe don't get an opportunity to do very often in that aspect. With that, our PBS team is going to be moving towards tier 2 interventions, which is something that's been going on at the elementary and going on at the middle school for a while. We're finally getting to the point where we're created a team so we can start to attack some of those more individual level individual goals with individual students versus just the behavior matrix and not behavior matrix, but behavior management system as a whole. So working with the counselors, working with school psychologists to figure out what that's going to look like second semester. We're going to get our teachers some training, so I'm excited about that because that's really where you see the benefit of that program is once you get past tier 1. So we've been talking a lot about that. Internship will be coming back second semester. Not that it hasn't been here, but some of the students that have been participating in it this last year and a half have been doing it online through another teacher around the state. But we're actually going to have a blocked off section. We got a handful of kids already signed up for it. Hopefully we're going to get a few more. So I'm excited to have that program back. I think that with the steps that we're taking with it, it's going to grow like crazy. And then last, had some positive results from our activity passes that we have been giving out for quarter 2 with the 4 less absences and 2 or less tardies. I've had kids use them at at both the athletic functions and what was the other one we had? The play even. So I think as that becomes more known and kids utilize it more, I think it's really good. I know we had a kid that stopped into Zach's office today and was like, why do we have to pay to go to things? I said, well, we're working on that. Tried to explain the system to a little bit of how we're trying to work through that. But I don't know if that came from his mom or came from him, but either way, it was a valid question. But that's all I got for a high school update. That's all. Did I go over my 2 minutes or I can fill it up?
I like to hear things like good. You have a lot of good things going on. Okay. Thank you for sharing all of that. All good things. What do we have left? Is that it? Any more updates? No? Okay. Public forum, you guys hung out. You guys have anything? You just wanted to see what was going on?
And nothing else going on.
Nothing else going on.
Believe it or not, I've got nothing.
Yeah, next meeting. Tuesday, January 14th in this boardroom. We can adjourn if I want to. I'll make a motion. I feel it. All right, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all for a late night.